Getting the Boss 429 tore apart and working on fenders, doors, trunk deck, so forth. Dylan's in the spray booth right now, spraying epoxy on all the miscellaneous little parts. We'll hang them up. He gets those all sprayed and we'll put them back on the car and start doing some body work. Okay, I'm working on this Boss 429 and we pulled everything apart, pulled the front fenders off and the hood and so forth. And Dylan sanded them down and epoxied everything. So this fender here looks really good. I believe it's the original Boss 429 fender. They had the rolled lip here, and there's a piece of wire or small rod that they put in there and rolled that over. However, this one must have got a lot of moisture down in there, and it rotted that, or it rusted through here in some spots. At some point, I just cut this out of here. At some point, someone just bondoed down in there, and obviously that's not the best way to fix that. So now I'm cutting this out. I'm going to cut this lip out here and probably even pull this wire out because there's going to be rusting behind it. I'll get that piece out of there, clean everything up real good, put a new piece in, and then weld in a new flange here. I want to keep this because it's the original fender, came off the car. Okay, I got most of it cut out, and there's filler all the way around, stuff down in behind that, so I cleaned it out. And the rod is still in there. You can see it right here. So I'm going to take a wire brush, wire wheel I think, and get down in there and clean that out real well and try to pull that wire out. And then once I get that all cleaned, I'll assess the damage, see if there's any holes through the outer skin here, and then decide what to do. If everything looks good, I'll cut a flange and roll the end and then weld it along this side here. So okay, so I've got the flange cut off and I pulled the wire out. I marked the location in the back there. I'm going to replace this, but for reference I want to have the same length and so forth. So I took a wire brush on a drill and cleaned up in the edge of that really good. And then I took a piece of poster board and made a pattern to get my radius around there. Transferred that over to a piece of sheet metal, and I cut it out and rounded the edge. Ran it through the bead roller and rounded that edge off. So now what I will do, I scribed a line right here, kind of the center of what my radius is going to be on this edge. So I'm going to cut that on that line right there and get rid of the old stuff so I have a nice clean piece. Once I get that out, I will clean in behind here a little bit better. So then this piece will go on here and I will weld it right on that seam there after I clean that out. It'll go up to this point. This is all good sheet metal here. This is good sheet metal here as well. So I'll splice it in those two areas. Okay, I'll cut this out, clean it up, start welding this in. Okay, so I've went through and tacked it, and I've got everything lined up down through here. And now I just cut the ends, and what I'll do is I'll tack this and pull this out to the point where I get these lined up really good here, and I'll weld them. And then I'll go to this side, and you can see I'm overlapping at this point. I made my piece a little bit long, so I'm going to cut it off here and clean this up and weld that. Okay, so I've got the seam welded continuously all the way down through here, and I just did about 1-inch sections and alternated around, cooled it. Took me 30 minutes to do that. So now I will grind this down and trim it up, grind it down, trim it on this edge, and then get my wire stuck in there. Okay, now that I got the flange welded on all the way through, sanded off, I'm going to put my wire in. And so here's the original wire. You can see how rusted it is. And I marked it when I took it out back, or the back side of the fender. And then I made another one. I made a new one. And I duplicated that arch, or that bend. And so I will put this in with the back in the same direction. And before I do that, I just dumped some, I mixed up a little batch of epoxy primer, and I poured it down in there. And then I took a brush and made sure I got the backside, or the backside of this piece here, coated really good with epoxy. So I feel very good about this now, that it won't collect moisture in there and rot like the previous one did. So now that I got that done, I'm going to take this piece and lay it in here, and you can see I have a mark there and a mark here. That was where this original one stopped on both ends. So I marked it before I took this out. Now I will take this one and put it in there, and I'm going to soak it up as well with epoxy. Try not to get myself full of epoxy. Need to pull that up just a little bit right there to get that to go under. Just a tad tight right there. Okay, so there's the end of it. there and there. Next, I'll take a little more epoxy. I've just been dumping it down on top there. Take the brush and get that new rod that I just put in there coated good. Before I bend that flange over. Now, if I wanted to keep myself clean, I would let that dry. I like to keep myself clean, but I don't want to take the time to let it dry. So I'm going to try to bend that around there without making too much of a mess. Okay. So next I'm going to take a hammer and a dolly, and I'm going to start in the middle here. There. So that's getting tight now. It won't move. And I'm going to have to move the camera so I can get a better angle, but you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to hammer and dolly that flange over, work my way around. Started in the center, got both ends at the right spot. And I'll just keep working it until I'm able to get it flat. Okay, I've got that all finished. I'm going to let that epoxy dry overnight.